Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to Three Gun Show, episode 108. I'm your host, Dave Hartman, and my guests are four gentlemen from the United States Marine Corps Reserve Action Shooting Team, Lieutenant Colonel Mark Yackley, Gunnery Sergeant Matt Logan, Gunnery Sergeant Gil Stubbs, and Sergeant David Szymanski. These guys are going to tell you about the newly minted USMC Reserve Action Shooting Team 3-Gun Edition and how it is aiming to build upon 100 years of Marine Corps fundamentals and affect the next 100 to keep our Marines safer. These guys are doing great work, and it is such an interesting and complex story that I knew I had to bring it to you. But before we get into the interview, I want to thank you for downloading and listening to the show. The 3-Gun Show is a weekly podcast where each week it's my job to bring you an interesting interview featuring the many awesome personalities in 3-Gun, and we talk about training, gear, match strategy, funny stories, and we just generally have a good time. If you like the show, there are multiple ways of supporting the podcast, including using our affiliate links when you shop at Brownells, Amazon, Cabela's, and Optics Planet. Just go to 3gunshow.com/support for the links. We talked to experienced Marines, but new 3-Gunners in this episode, and I recommend that they each get a copy of the 3-Gun Show match checklist free by going to 3gunshow.com/checklist. You can get yours too. Just enter your email and you will receive a free PDF download that includes everything that Jensen Jones takes with him when he travels for a match, as he told us in episode 30 of the podcast. This checklist will help you pack for all the matches that you're going to shoot in 2017. Now, before we get going here, gotta tell you, I'm chasing a little problem with my recording setup. I think my mixer is slowly dying and cutting my audio out by more than half. I tried to fix it as best I could in post, but you may still hear like a little bit of audio funkiness here and there. But hang in there, I'll get it fixed, and I didn't think it turned out too bad anyway. So I caught up with these gentlemen the night before they were training in Georgia, so you're going to hear from all four of them. But first, we are going to start with Sergeant David Szymanski, who was home for the interview because he actually lives in Georgia. David, welcome to the 3-Gun Show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you. I'm happy to talk with you here. I met you at a couple matches this year, and I'm pumped about what you guys are doing with the Marine Reserve Action Shooting Team. And I'm kind of wondering like what your background is yourself and like how you got onto the team here. So let's talk about that. Let's give the audience an idea of who you are off the range.
Absolutely, it's been an awesome thing to be a part of. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, or just outside of Atlanta, where I'm a police officer. So 3-gun and shooting is a big part of my daily life. You know, as a reservist, it's hard to keep all those skills up. They're all perishable skills. In the Marine Corps, I've been doing that about just shy of 10 years. And I'm a reconnaissance Marine. I'm with 4th Recon Battalion. And with them, I've done a couple deployments and, worked in all the aspects of the teams. And I'm currently a team leader with them. So I've got a group of young Marines that, I deal with on a regular basis. We learn together, and, the 3-gun team is something I've kind of fallen into through Eric Fraser, one of the other action shooting teammates.
So you're a police officer in your daily job, Recon Marine, at the same time. How do you balance those two separate careers that seem kind of related, actually?
It gets tough for sure, and bringing on the action shooting team has kind of added another, I guess, a third part to the pie, because they ask a lot too, with the training and stuff. We spend a lot of time on the range doing the shooting thing. Being a reconnaissance reservist isn't really a traditional path for a reservist. With that said, we don't do a traditional drill every month. We might do, a week here and there instead of just the 1 weekend a month. And then on top of that, we've got additional training, like additional jumps and dives and this and that all over the place that we kind of come into as we can. So being a police officer is a big benefit to that too, because they're pretty understanding that, they're real military friendly. They get that, we've all got other things going on. So them letting me come out and shoot with the 3-gun team has been awesome.
Yeah, so you kind of primed them with being a reservist, and then now you add in the combat shooting team, the action shooting team, and you're like, oh, hey, I got this other thing I got to do for the Marines.
Right.
Now you get all the time off.
I try to work with them as much as I can too. Surely there's manpower issues anywhere you go, but they give me about half of what I ask for. So what I really just do is I ask for twice as much and get what I need.
Well, don't tell anyone you work with you were on the 3-gun show. They're
right.
going to find out your secret.
I think it'll be all right. So
David, how did you get introduced to action shooting, to the practical shooting sports?
It's always been something that's interested me. I didn't get into it until about 2 years ago. I got invited to come and shoot a USPSA match with a friend of mine who's another reconnaissance guy. And I fell in love with it. I was shooting an old M&P and just totally stock and nothing special. And I loved it. I've finally seen the light and I'm shooting a Glock now, but you can't win them all right off the bat.
It's true.
From there, another friend of mine who I knew through that guy, who was a master gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, just retired, Master Guns Dean, he was telling me, hey man, you got to get rid of that pistol stuff. You got to come shoot 3-gun. That's what men do. This is a guy I look up to a lot. So I was like, yeah, well, I better check that out. And, a couple years later, here I am. And it's been an awesome opportunity to learn. And shooting with these guys, just, when you surround yourself with talented, like-minded people, you really have the opportunity to go far. And these guys have taught me so much, and it really brought me under their wing.
That's great. I love one of the big things that I was drawn to, and I actually got to shoot on a squad at the 3-man 3-gun at Rockcastle with you guys. And one of the things that I was drawn to is how much you guys operate as a team and help each other out, even amongst the separate teams at the team match. It's cool that you guys get together and actually do training for the practical shooting sports rather than just throwing on your jersey and then going for it. So it's cool that you guys are getting that kind of support from the Marines.
Absolutely.
So,
and everybody's willing to do that and even more. Really, our only limitation is just getting together and finding the time. Everybody's balancing a family and a job and this and that, and everybody makes the sacrifices and comes out and puts their time in and helps each other out. It's been really inspiring, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said you were hooked right away, and then you got into 3-gun and went even deeper. So what was it about the shooting sports that hooked you in?
There's just nothing like it. It's one of those things when that buzzer goes and you start to move or start to shoot, and it's over in a blink of an eye, it seems, and you just say, damn, if I could just do that stage again, I could do this, this, and this. It's a sport like golf. It's something that you'll never you got it. Surely you can get better and better. There's always a faster time. There's always somebody better. There's always goals to strive for. And, you can continue to push yourself without limitations.
Now, do you see any benefit to what you do on a regular basis with your normal job or with as being a recon Marine?
Absolutely. As a police officer, you try not to use words like target priority, but when you're planning a stage for 3-gun and you see 3 targets, you're like, well, I'm going to get that one first, that one, and then that one. When you're on the road or doing this and that, you find yourself thinking like that in situations that could potentially become more precarious. So it helps, your mental game, keeps you focused, and also having the confidence to use firearms, on a range. And the more comfortable and confident you are, the more successful you're likely to be in a situation that requires you to use them.
So, David, what kind of goals do you have around your game in 3-gun?
Really, just catching up to the other guys on the team. Like I said, they've been, a great help teaching and mentoring, and I'm trying to do a little bit of that myself with the other teammates, but more so with the Marines that we teach. Like they talked about, the big goal for our action shooting team isn't just for us to go out and look cool and shoot 3-gun. It's to hone our own skills in such a way that we can pass this on to Marines and bring more men home for the next fight.
That's definitely a good goal for the team, and good goal for the people of the nation as well. So the shooting sports and catching up, one of the things that I've found myself is that a lot of times I'll get overflow of information. There's so many things to learn and so many people to learn from. Is there like a time that stands out in your head where you've learned something that you've taken that has been like a key piece of information that you recall every time you go to the range?
Slow down. That's what I try to tell myself all the time. You see these guys shooting super fast and super accurately, and you think, well, I'm watching it right here. Surely I can do that. And you go try to run your guns a little faster than your capabilities, and it shows for sure. But if I could give a tip to somebody that's new, I'd say, run your own race for now, and don't try to run a marathon with the marathon runners until you're ready to.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. I find myself getting ahead of myself oftentimes too, because I shoot with some of the best people out there, and you want to emulate them and be just like them.
Absolutely.
So David, what do you see in your future for this sport, other than the the training aspect? Do you have any sort of personal goals that you're working toward?
Not really. Just continuing to get better. The competition aspect of the sport with the team it's a ton of fun. If I just do well enough to continue, that's really where I'm at now.
What was the best match you shot in 2016?
Hard as hell for sure.
Really?
Out in Hurricane, Utah. It was outstanding. It was a ton of fun. It really incorporated, the big match aspects. It was the biggest match I've shot for sure. And, they really had a lot of fun and some creativity in the stages.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to shoot that match as well. And they definitely, like you said, were super creative. And you could tell in each stage that they put a lot of thought into it being fun rather than it just being a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Every stage was something new. We had a good bit of time to walk the stages prior to. And I think you could have taken a whole nother day and put that in and still had as many surprises as you had while actually shooting it.
Absolutely. I had a little too many surprises myself. Well, David, I know that we are time constrained here, so if you can leave the audience, the 3-Gun Show audience, with just one thought or one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just keep doing it. Stick with it. And, that's about it.
I love it. Well, that's a great piece of advice, David. Thank you for your time, man, and I'll see you on the range soon.
All right, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
And now the rest of the interview with Lieutenant Colonel Mark Yackley, Gunnery Sergeant Matt Logan, and Gunnery Sergeant Gil Stubbs. Gentlemen, welcome to the 3-Gun Show.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, Dave. How are you? Yes, glad to be here.
Dudes, I'm totally excited to have you. This has been a long time coming. We've had a lot of matches in 2016, and we shot many of those together. So I've seen you guys out there, and I'm excited to share with the 3-Gun Show audience what the Marine Corps Reserve Action Shooting Team is up to. And I think we should start off with Matt. Matt, I met you this summer at the Rock Castle 3-Man 3-Gun, and I love the story you told me about the start of the team. But let's hear from you, man. How did your 3-gun journey begin?
Well, my 3-gun journey started with Colonel Kitchens making the decision. Colonel Kitchens retired as the OIC of the Marine Corps Reserve Shooting Teams back in was effective 1 January. In October of 2014, there was an idea that, hey, the Marine Corps Reserve needs a 3-gun team or an action shooting team like they have on active duty. And so there was two other people tasked with this, one of them being a Major Bandwig, and then Master Sergeant Julia Watson, who is a world-class high-power shooter, one of the best rifle shooters I've ever met in my life. And I basically begged to be a part of the development of what is now the action shooting team. And so as fate would have it, Major Bandwig got deployed. Master Sergeant Watson, she retired. And so it left Gunnery Sergeant Logan all alone and unafraid. And so I decided that what better way to get started in 3-gun than just start shooting. So I called some Marines up that I'd served with previously, one of them being Gil Stubbs, Gunnery Sergeant Gil Stubbs, who's here with us tonight. Talked to him and said, hey, man, this is what I'm going to do. Are you interested? And he's like, yep, I'm all in. So we started talking and training and looking around a little bit. And then we were fortunate enough to spend a week at Quantico Weapons Training Battalion with the active duty team. Great guys there, as I'm sure you well know. Got to shoot with them, got a taste of it. And then a couple weeks later, we went and shot the Pro-Am at Rockcastle in 2015. And at that point, man, it was all in. Like I said before, we were like selling kidneys, doing whatever we had to do in order to make this thing happen. So it's kind of flourished from there. I literally made a couple phone calls to guys that I'd served with previously that I thought would be a good fit for what the overall mission of the team was. And they were all kind of, let's look at it. And then they shot a 3-gun match, and it was like, what do we got to do? What do we got to do to keep this train moving? And at that point, it's just kind of flourished. I'm real excited about where we're going and what we've accomplished thus far. And I've got big goals, big plans, big dreams for all of it. So,
well, that's great, man. I want to hear about those big goals, big dreams, and big plans. But we need to introduce our other fellows here before we get into that. So hang on to those for me, Matt. And Gil, let's hear from you, man. What's your sort of background, and how did you get into shooting 3-gun?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me this evening. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's been a very interesting road getting here. And to start from the beginning, I've been associated with the Marine Corps Reserve shooting teams now for about 4 years. And that association has consisted of showing up to the school as an assistant instructor, helping set up the classes, getting the ranges where they need to be, making sure that the students are prepared before they get their training. And the neat thing about what I had a chance to be a part of was the best shooters in the Marine Corps were all condensed into one location, whether it was pistol or rifle. Being a fly on the wall, the amount of information I was able to pick up was priceless, and it kept me coming back. In addition, having a chance to work with the Marine Corps Reserve's only MOS producing school, so military occupational school, that's owned by the reserves, it's pretty unique. We're the only group of Marines that actually make Marines that come out with a new job title and certification. So it's a very unique program and institution to be a part of. Now, I'm in a little bit different of a boat than everybody else because my first competitive shooting experience was the Pro-Am in 2015.
Oh, wow.
You want to talk about drinking from a fire hose?
Yeah, jumping right in there.
So a lot of the guys in this room have had experience either at USPSA or Gunnery Sergeant Logan's a Kentucky State high-power champion, those types of things. Obviously, Colonel Mark Yackley, and it's about as deep as you can get into 3-gun. But this has been a year of learning, to say the least. And the opportunity that Matt provided to get on board, we've served on a number of deployments together, and we have a mutual respect and understanding of how we perform in combat situations. So I think he understood that bringing me on, I'd do the best I could to catch up as fast as possible. But it's been a great opportunity, and it was luck by association. Being a part of the shooting teams as an instructor provided me the opportunity to jump on this and help stand up an action shooting team for the reserves.
Well, that's great. It's like all those years of good work and everything are finally paying off.
You know what? And it's not only paying off, but it's also humbling. I think you get to a point in your Marine Corps career, especially as a gunny, where you think you know everything. And then somebody tells you to go shoot 3-gun and you realize you don't know anything. So, it's at a Marine Corps range, I'm a consistent high battalion level, company level pistol or rifle expert. And I realized that my level of marksmanship was very narrow. And this has given me an opportunity to see the other side of the house, which makes me a better instructor in the long run. And that's really the focus now, is how can I best help instruct Marines to give them a bigger picture of how they can shoot. And then hopefully one day when I catch up, I'll be able to also be a great shooter teaching that stuff to Marines.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, that's the best thing about, or that I've heard about the team, is how you're taking things that you learn in the shooting sports and then bringing them back and actually using that in your curriculum. I love that concept.
Dave, we actually are certifying and producing a new job for Marines going back to the fleet to coach their Marines how to shoot. So the scope of influence that we actually have with them, it's significant. And this gives us an opportunity to explore other types of shooting, other people's mind frames, and additional types of training that we can apply to make our Marines better shots when they go back to Fleet Marine Corps.
Well, that's great. And I want to get into more of that as well here. Man, I hope you guys have enough time tonight because we got a lot to talk about. But I want to introduce or reintroduce, bring back Mr. Mark Yackley. Mark, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, Dave. It's good to be here.
And Mark, we heard a little bit from you last year at SHOT Show, and I know you personally, and we've shot a ton together this summer. But for the audience, give them an idea of who you are off the range, maybe, and your background and how you came into the shooting team.
Well, essentially, Dave, I've been shooting for quite a number of years. I started shooting competitively when I was 15 years old. My high school had a rifle team, and so I shot for 4 years, essentially 4 to 5 days a week, and did very well at that. Went on to shoot at Marquette University for their rifle team, where I met my wife. We both were there together. So I shot there for an additional 4 years shooting small bore air rifle, and then we created our own pistol team as well. And actually, our first year took second in the nation for the collegiate pistol teams in air pistol.
Wow.
So I shot air pistol and free pistol then for several years as well, eventually becoming an All-American in my senior year of college.
Wow,
so
nice.
After that, into the Marine Corps, and not a ton of time for competitive shooting. Did a little bit here and there in my first couple years in the Marine Corps, and then kids, life, everything else took over. So now I work as a state trooper in Wisconsin, and in what is kind of a part-time job, almost a full-time job. I also am a reserve Marine. So I've spent approximately 9 years on active duty since the September 11th attacks in 2001, and just a variety of different positions, a variety of different places, and just enjoying. Eventually, once my kids were old enough, we always planked with the kids, and they shot different things. And about fall of 2011, we started shooting USPSA with the kids. And then a year later, we added 3-gun to the menu. And so here we are just over 4 years later, in pretty deep, maybe over our heads. I'm not sure.
Well, Mark, so you've been in 3-gun for quite a while. To me, when, being just a civilian and seeing this from the outside, I hear, Matt saying the reserve, he's putting together a reserve team. I know that you're a reserve Marine. And so it just seems like, peanut butter and jelly type of thing. But how did you guys get hooked up?
So essentially, it was a relationship made on Facebook. No, it was it was
That's
interesting.
Kind of true. There's some truth to that.
Basically, I was just scrolling through my Facebook feed one day, and I saw one of the active duty team members had posted something saying, "Hey, we're looking for some summer shooters for the active duty team. Anybody want to come shoot?" And it really was talking to active duty Marines who may be stationed in other locations that might be able to get away for a few months on TAD and go shoot for the active duty team for the summer. And I was just kind of joking around, say, "Hey, you got room for me in there?" And I knew that the answer would be no. They're not going to put a lieutenant colonel on orders for the summer to go shoot at Quantico. And he said, "Well, actually, I might know somebody." And so he contacted somebody who contacted somebody in the end. Gunny Matt Logan, shot me a message on Facebook, and we kind of connected. So he approached his boss and said, "Hey, I got this guy. He shoots some 3-gun." And then his boss kind of like, "Okay, yeah, we'll look into it, whatever." And then he realized after a couple of weeks, he's like, he started looking me up. And he's like, "Oh, I don't know that I sold him properly to the boss."
That's an understatement. One Google search, you know what happens.
So yeah, he realized he probably needed to go with a little harder sell. So yeah, got his boss on the phone and made sure that he got back in contact with me. And a couple months later, met up with them. Really, the first time I met any of them was at that Samson 3-man 3-gun match there in
cool. June
when you met everybody else as well.
Dave, can I add something to that real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so I want to just take a second to acknowledge and also let you know that we've been very fortunate, beyond fortunate, to have the support of the active duty action shooting team. Gunnery Sergeant Stocking, Staff Sergeant Vega, Staff Sergeant Fur have been more than accommodating and helping us not only train but understanding ins and outs of this game, especially when we got up and going. So because of that relationship that we built with them, Gunnery Sergeant Stocking, who is the staff NCOIC or their non-commissioned officer in charge, happened to shoot me a message and was like, hey, I got a gentleman you might want to check out. He's a lieutenant colonel, and he's interested in getting some more knowledge about 3-gun. And being a gunnery sergeant, I'm like, oh, well, all right. So the game kind of started, and I've got the information. There's a colonel that wants to talk about some shooting, and I immediately push that off to my boss, who's Gunny Logan. And Gunny Logan starts to work it. About a day later, I get a message, and it's an immediate message for immediate action that I need to get on Google right now and look up the person I just sent him, which I did. And sure enough, there's Mark Yackley all over the place. 3-gun down. It couldn't have been a better marriage. He's established in the game. He's where we're trying to get. And the tools, the knowledge, the experience, his calmness at the range has provided us the ability to get better leaps and bounds, pulling from his experience and knowledge in a very short amount of time. So it was kind of neat how it worked out. Just random emails kind of bouncing around. If you understand the Marine Corps, you know that gunnies and lieutenant colonels don't typically have a lot of interaction. And so it was kind of the hot potato route real quick. But once he kind of got pulled up on the interweb, we kind of realized that we had a diamond, and it was neat how things have worked out since then.
Well, so for me and for other civilians out there, explain, the gunnery sergeant and lieutenant colonel relationship. That to me, that seems like far apart in rank, but I honestly don't know.
I think part of it is, and we were actually talking about this the other day, trying to explain to some people it's unique in terms of, we just explain in terms of an infantry battalion. In an infantry battalion, you've got essentially 3 line companies, a weapons company, and a headquarters company. So you have 5 companies, and you're talking in the range of 700 to 900 Marines. And so each company, you're looking at, say, 150 to 200 Marines. There is only 1 to 2 gunnery sergeants in that entire company.
Okay.
And being a lieutenant colonel, if you're in an infantry battalion, so out of 900 people, there is 1 lieutenant colonel.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it just is. There's just not many of us around. So, and usually if you have to talk to the colonel, there's a problem.
And usually if you've gone to talk to the colonel, the gunnery sergeant has already talked to you in a loud and thunderous manner. And you'd much prefer to probably deal with the lieutenant colonel as opposed to the gunnery sergeant again.
I got it. So that's why these guys are all nice to you, Mark. I was wondering about that.
Right. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Pretty much.
Well, so the start of this team actually sounds pretty cool because there's a lot of opportunity meets guys that turned out to be nutballs about shooting practical shooting and 3-gun, who actually put in the effort to get there, along with Mark, who is a guy that's been shooting this for a long time and just happened to come upon it on Facebook of all places. So I mean, what a cool story to start the team off.
Right.
Agreed.
And so then, how did you guys once you guys all met and they somehow established this team? What did the planning look like from there? Did you already know the goals going in on what you wanted to do with the team?
No, I mean, honestly, it was just from the 3-gun aspect. It was learning to drink from a fire hose your first day out. There was no crawl, walk, run kind of situation. Like I said, my first 3-gun match was the Pro-Am in 2015. And I learned a lot, failed a lot, but grew quite a bit. But we knew that, as far as just going out and shooting 3-gun and shooting fast and having fun, there was more to it than that. We knew that we, as a team, would need to be able to provide a service to the greater Marine Corps. We look at 3-gun or action shooting as an opportunity to learn techniques and procedures that we can go out and teach other Marines. Oftentimes, you shot enough 3-gun, Dave, that you shoot a rifle, you'll shoot it offhand, you'll shoot from behind a barricade, you'll shoot underneath cars, all the stuff that happens at Blue Ridge and all those places, just the austere shooting positions that you get into. We feel like that about the only place that you can get that is through action shooting. The standard Marine Corps rifle qualification that we knew to grow and love started out as known distance shooting. The Marine Corps has morphed that into additional tables of fire where you go out and there is more of an action shooting concept, but it's all tailored to just shooting on a square range. We want to try to move beyond that and take it to the next level where we're teaching Marines to shoot underneath barricades around objects and understand what's going to happen if you're shooting with your rifle tilted 90 degrees in one direction as opposed to straight up and down. What does your hold have to look like when you look through that optic? How's it best to reload magazines on the fly? What are some of the things that you can do to limit your exposure to make multiple shots on multiple targets? Things of that nature. How fast can you run that rifle and still get rounds on target? And the goal at this point is to be able to shoot as many major matches and gain as much knowledge as we can. When we go and we teach, we go out to different units and support those units and help them run their ranges. We will go out and we want to teach these Marines what happens. What do you need to do in order to put shots on targets?
That sounds like a perfect marriage right there of your goals and what 3-gun provides. The types of shooting positions and just scenarios that we get into in 3-gun are never the same and always varied. So I would imagine from just like one season you've learned so much for what your goals are.
It's been astounding. I thought I had a pretty good idea going into it, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I learned more, I realized how ignorant that I really was. It's been a great marriage, really. I think we're growing. I think we've got an opportunity to teach Marines and help Marines survive next contact. It's not an if, it's a when kind of scenario. So we want to see Marines come home. We want to see them come home unscathed, unhurt, and we want to make that other poor dumb bastard die for his country.
The type of gear that we use in 3-gun is a lot different than what I see, in pictures of things that are issued to our military. Do you ever take any sort of flack or feedback from people you're trying to train saying, oh yeah, if I was out there with my laser guns and things like that, but maybe I could shoot like that?
There can be an aspect to that, either from people that you're training or just other people that you know. And I think it depends on how you look at the equipment. There are some things that we use, and it's primarily the shotguns that are different from what a lot of people use. Our shotguns, obviously, big long tubes, there might be bright colors. At the heart of it, it's still just a semi-automatic shotgun. And that's what the Marine Corps has. We have the M1014, which is essentially a Benelli M4 shotgun with a collapsible buttstock. And that's just another semi-automatic shotgun. We're all pretty familiar with that. We're not going to load that military shotgun as quickly, but we're going to shoot it just the same. And in reality, the Marine Corps is kind of trying to move in the direction of 3-gun rifles. We have 4X optics on our rifles for the Marine Corps, which is fairly similar to what some people are using in 3-gun or what was maybe popular a few years ago. Just not a variable power, but that's something they have at their disposal. The Marine Corps was real big on iron sights for a long, long, long time, and now they came around to scopes, and so that's firmly in there. And our pistols really aren't all that different from the military service pistol. Yes, they're a lot better, and we prefer to shoot our own weapons. But hey, a Beretta 9mm is going to shoot someone pretty much the same way as an STI 9mm. Just it might have to be a little closer to them. And actually the Beretta is pretty darn accurate. The trigger pull just is not ideal, but we actually in the past had some very strenuous accuracy requirements as part of our qualifications, and it was very difficult to get within even 15, 20 points of a perfect score, and a perfect score was pretty much impossible.
That's interesting. And do you blame a lot of that on the heavy trigger pull of the Beretta, or is it just the way it was set up was unattainable?
It was just, I'd say it's more just about the size of the target that we had to shoot on. We were looking at shooting at 25 yards. You had to, for just the first portion of the qualification, the old qualification, you had to put 15 shots into the 10 ring at 25 yards, and that 10 ring was about how big? 2-3 inches.
That's a fair assessment.
It's a heck of a tight little group.
Yeah, that definitely does seem like a difficult qualification there. So with what you guys have been doing this summer, like how does it work? There's a lot of you guys, right? There's 12 guys on the team that I can count, I think.
No, not quite 12. Right now we've got eight current members.
There we go.
We've got four of the Marines that are trying to work their way into a, for lack of a better term, a full-time spot on the team. That's not to say that if they're not competent, qualified Marines out there, we won't entertain. We'll entertain anybody in the Marine Corps that's interested in doing what we do. But there's about 12 on the roster that when information goes out, that's who gets pinged.
Gotcha. So then how does that work when you guys set up training and things like that? Because you guys are all in the same room right now, and you're actually at a training event this weekend, right?
Correct. We've got usually what happens, we set up a schedule, a year in advance, basically. The good thing about 3-gun is there's pretty much a cyclic right there. You know who's going to be shooting what and when. Pro-Ams in August, Hard as Hell's in December, those things. So we can kind of develop a schedule according to that. And then that information gets pushed out, and it's like, hey, who's available for this match, for this training event? And like we've said before, everybody here is trying to juggle civilian life, military life, 3-gun, families, all of those things. And there are times when life gets in the way of shooting 3-gun. So, for instance, there's 5 of us here this weekend training and competing, but like I said, there's 12 people on the roster. So life gets in the way. So if they can make it, they make it. If they can't, they can't. We've got Marines preparing for deployment that are members of the team. We've got others that are police officers throughout the country and can't get away from work. And they've got to be very selective on what they shoot and what they don't shoot as far as matches and training goes. So it's becomes very much a time constraint.
One of the cooler things that I got to do in 2016 was shoot the 3-man 3-gun, and that's obvious, or I guess the Rockcastle 3-man 3-gun, and that's obviously where I got to meet you guys and hear the story about the team and everything. It was cool to see you guys operating as a team and how you interact with each other as well. But more than that, like your individual teams were supporting the other teams. It was just a cool environment. Is the team match something you guys are going to be seeking out and doing more of in 2017? Do you see that as a benefit for the overall goal of the action shooting team?
Hey, Dave, this is Gil Stubbs. Just kind of going back to something we touched on earlier. The main goal, the main reason why we exist is to teach Marines. And the Marine Corps operates in systems based on teams and teamwork. And information only becomes knowledge if you're willing to share that with somebody. And us operating in teams and working with other teams, it gives us the ability to learn things. Sometimes in the Marine Corps, because we have standard operating procedures and it's there for a reason. Something's happened or safety. It's a large organization. But we are sometimes handcuffed on what we can train to and experience. Civilian sector is not like that. Civilians are able to explore different things and training and the application of their systems. That helps us get a glimpse into what they're doing. And relationship building is probably the best thing about this game anyway. I think you'd probably agree to that the shooting community is amazing. You're never going to meet people like this doing anything else. ever. And a lot of them are curious about us and what we do and what our history is. And we're very curious about how they got so good. And by keeping that bridge open and down and exchanging that knowledge, it's knowledge. It's not just information floating around in somebody's head. And that's what we're after. That's what we want, is that knowledge. How do they become great shooters? What are they doing that we can apply to the Marines that we're training?
I love it. That's like the goal of the show, and my job would be pretty damn boring if these people sucked.
We still listen, Dave.
Oh, thanks. Well, Gil, what type of knowledge have you seen, and what are some of the, if you could pick out like a few of the like crossover things that you've learned from some of these top performers, what stands out in your mind?
There's so many we could do a whole show on the things I've learned in the last year, but I'm gonna go to top three.
Okay.
First off is the importance of focusing on your front sight post, like just understanding where your sights are, and when you start to go faster, whether that's combat or a 3-gun pit, whatever you're running, trying to that little bit of resistance, that little bit of excitement of the timer going off. It's the closest thing you can have to simulating a combat scenario. Like once you get excited, your adrenaline gets going. How the fundamentals apply. And the Marine Corps is great at teaching those fundamentals, but it's a building block to advanced shooting. And I'm kind of getting exposure to that. But understanding front sight post is everything in this, especially with your pistol system. Your rifle game, I shoot tack iron, so that red dot. Number two is the placement of gear, believe it or not. And so the way that I set up my kit for deployment has changed significantly. The way that I'll deploy the next time and where my magazine pouches are, my pistol mag pouches, the setup is going to be different now that I understand that there's a little bit of a difference between tactical and practical. And I can speed the transition from weapon systems. I can speed my reloads if I'm engaged in combat. And so understanding where your gear is and how that actually functions with what you're trying to accomplish on a mission has been a big deal. The last thing I'm going to kind of leave you with is that being humble has been a big learning experience. Sometimes gunnery sergeants in the Marine Corps, because I've been around for so long, get a little bit crusty. A little bit angry. You're kind of closing in on that retirement time. And you think you know it all because you've seen a lot of stuff. Believe it or not, you've really seen a lot of stuff. And it was good to kind of get knocked back on my butt to realize that I don't know everything and that I can still shut my mouth and get new information and be challenged with something as I'm getting a little bit older in life. And so understanding that I still have things to learn has helped me the last few months try to get over some personal barriers with this sport.
Oh man, how cool is that to be in a position where you realize like, oh, I don't know everything and there's something left to learn, and to be able to have like a new thing to master. I mean, that's like what life is all about. It's like everyone's just trying to figure out their thing. And if 3-gun is that thing, or if being a father is that thing, or building a house, whatever it is, building a career, it's cool to have that thing that you're working on to try to make yourself a better person. And then you get to use that to teach everybody else. That's perfect.
Absolutely, David. But I've got a funny feeling that you never really master this. And as far as I can tell, I'm going to be trying to get better every year and year. If I master this, I might have to start actually building a space gun.
Well, that's just like life too. You never really master life. You're always learning and moving. So, well, Mark,
I'll get better. My goal is to get better. I think mastering might be a ways down the road.
Yeah. I figure if I get better every year, then I'm moving in the right direction for sure.
Exactly.
Well, Mark, you came at this with like a little bit different perspective. You brought in a lot of experience into the team. What was your first year experience like with your relationship to the action shooting team?
Well, I'd say it's really only been maybe 6 months in a lot of ways, looking at 6-7 months, but it seemed like a year.
Calendar year, it's 2017.
It's been very unique in that, like anything else, every benefit has a downside, and it's not a downside per se, but just that if you just want to go out and shoot as part of this team, it doesn't mean you get to spend all your time shooting. Essentially now I'm the OIC, the officer in charge of this team, so. Between Gunny Logan and myself, and I think Gunny Logan tackles a lot of the nitty gritty. I mean, it's this match is on the schedule. Well, who all signed up for it? Did everybody get signed up for it? Did everybody squad together? What have we done about payments? Did everybody pay their match fees? Is this, that? You're trying to just herd a bunch of cats in the right direction, and it can get frustrating at times. And then there's other duties. Gunnery Sergeant Stubbs is now being tasked with developing a database for all the different instructor qualifications for all the Marines on all the reserve shooting teams, to try and make sure that everybody's current, that everybody has, dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, so that they're able to, legally teach all of these courses when they get up on the podium. You can't give a Marine another MOS unless you're properly trained and certified to be able to do that. And so we have the schoolhouse at Quantico is always looking over our shoulders and making sure that we're doing the right thing. Otherwise, they could pull that from us, because reservists don't get to run MOS schools anywhere except here. And so it's a very unique privilege that we have. We want to make sure that keeps going long into the future. So we got to do our jobs right. And it's all those other things. Or I had the unique opportunity to be able to go down to Quantico this year for the Marine Corps' marksmanship symposium. So basically, the different people in charge of different aspects of marksmanship in the Marine Corps get together and help determine policy for about 275,000 different people to follow.
Wow.
And try to determine the direction. I was the lead representative for the approximately 100,000 Marines who are in the Marine Corps Reserve Forces. And it was very neat to see, but also a bit humbling, realizing it's a big wheel and it's been turning for about 100 years without much of a change in direction. And we've got to determine if we need to try and spin that wheel a little bit, or just keep it rolling with increased speed in the same direction it's going.
And so what was your first take on that as being a part of that? Is there improvements that you can make or you can recommend in doctrine based on the things that the team has learned in 3-gun?
I think that it's given me a different perspective. I always look at it and I say that there are the fundamentals of marksmanship. And at a certain point, you take the fundamentals and then you move on to advanced techniques. And I always look at the Army and I go, it's funny. The Army, generally speaking, kind of skips over the fundamentals and goes right to the advanced techniques. When they're going out there for their qualification, they've got pop-up targets, there are multiple targets that are popping up from ranges, that vary from 50 meters out to 350 meters. And it's exciting, relatively speaking, dynamic. The Marine Corps, we teach fundamentals, and we teach fundamentals like nobody's business. And then we kind of repeat the same thing every year. And we have a little bit of work on advanced techniques. But I think that we've got those fundamentals down so solidly, we just need to spend some time on that and then give Marines some of that advanced training. The biggest thing that I always point out to people when I'm talking about what I've learned in 3-gun and what we can use for the Marine Corps is just the reverse kneeling shooting position. For by and large in the Marine Corps, it doesn't exist unless you're in special communities that really, really focus on shooting. Your average Marine infantryman has never, ever heard of the reverse kneeling position. And yet it's so useful for everything we do, getting up quick, getting down quick, getting behind something to protect you or conceal you from enemy fire. And, reverse kneeling fits a lot of those qualifications. And just the nature of our competition brings out, that I don't like scripted scenarios where you tell someone, hey, you must stand here. You must shoot this many rounds at a target this size. I prefer to give them, a scenario where they just walk out there and you go, hey, there's 6 targets out there. You got to find them. You got to shoot them. And you don't tell them what position to shoot from. You just tell them they got to do it as fast as they can. That guy's shooting back, or the other Marine who's going to shoot after him is going to shoot it faster than them. So they're going to find the best way that they can to shoot those targets. And you don't need to, it's not worth spending 2 minutes to get a shot perfectly in the center of the target. If you can just hop down into, whatever shooting position it is and get a shot off in 5 or 10 seconds, that's maybe not perfectly in the center, but close enough to have the desired effect. So you need to figure out how fast can I shoot just in order to engage the target properly.
So then do you see like an opportunity to bring maybe to bring 3-gun into the Marine Corps, or perhaps like a classifier type situation to complement the fundamentals that are taught?
I think that it's, and I wouldn't say we're bringing in 3-gun, because the reality is that 90% of the Marine Corps they have a rifle, and they only have a rifle. So,
how about
but I
practical
kind of
shooting
refer
then?
to it as maybe like a 3-gun style or practical shooting style training.
Okay.
So it's not really important that there be 3 guns. The importance is that we take people and we put them on a clock, we put them under pressure, and we tell them that they need to hit all these targets as fast as possible. And you give them the techniques as far as how to do it, but they need to learn kind of hey, well, I bet I could hit that from offhand. You're like, well, maybe you should use that rock over there and go reverse kneeling or go prone. That might be the quicker, faster way. But you let them do it and realize, oh, yeah, that didn't work. That other guy kicked my ass, and I watched him, and here's what he did. And just realizing that you can't just tell everybody to hop down and shoot off their sling from prone. That might not be the quickest way, the most effective way to engage targets as quickly as possible.
God, I have had a lot of moments like that throughout the last year, for sure. Of
Absolutely.
like, wow, why didn't I do it like that? That looks way easier than the way I tried it.
That happens
Right.
2 or 3 times a match for me.
Yeah, for sure. But the good thing, Matt, is that you learn better from that, having screwed it up in the first place, and now you get to try it again in the next match. There's no dire consequences other than a little bit of pride.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. The cost is exactly that, pride. No blood loss, no letters home to your family. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take what we're learning in these 3-gun matches, in these action shooting matches, and translate that into the Marine Corps.
And that's one of the interesting things I wanted to bring up, Dave, because this popped in my head earlier when you were talking with Gunner Sergeant Stubbs. It's just that people don't realize how good they have it at these. Essentially every fall, take about 100 reserve Marines, and they go through the combat marksmanship coach course. And these Marines are being taught by literally every one of their instructors is a member of one of the reserve shooting teams. It'd be the bullseye pistol team, the high power rifle team, and now, the newly minted, action shooting team. So in other places in the Marine Corps, the active duty folks, they get taught by somebody who they might be a good shooter, but they just essentially sent them to a school and said, you're now the instructor for this course, and you will now go and make shooting coaches for the Marine Corps. And the reserves were like, nope, we got one school once a year, and it's taught by the best shooters in the Marine Corps Reserves, who in some cases might be the best shooters in the Marine Corps as a whole. And so it gives them just unparalleled ability to train these Marines. And so we take a 3-week course and we actually teach it in 2 weeks. And literally the reserve Marine shooting teams train every single shooting coach for the Marine Corps Reserves.
Man,
for the entire country.
That's amazing. What an opportunity and what a huge responsibility too to put on the shooting teams.
Well, Dave, and to kind of touch on something that Colonel Yackley said, as far as the rifle team, the high power team, and the bullseye pistol team, these aren't just some of the best shooters in the Marine Corps. These are some of the best shooters in the country in their discipline. You've got people like Master Sergeant Scarrett, shoots. He shoots high power. He also shoots Palma at 1,000-yard iron sights. Phenomenal rifle shooter. Master Sergeant Julia Watson. She had made a habit of going to Camp Perry and showing the rest of the country how to shoot a rifle. Gunner Sergeant Jason Hedrick, the man is a phenomenal pistol shot. I don't know of a trophy that he hasn't won. Just world-class competitors and competent shooters, beyond competent shooters. I can't say enough good things about my cohorts. They're phenomenal. And anybody, active, reserve, whoever can get to this course, if you want to learn how to shoot, go sit down and listen, and just listen to what these people are going to tell you. It is like learning to drink from a fire hose.
That's amazing. And then now, you guys get to participate in the instructor side of that as well?
Yes, sir.
So what's
Yes,
that
sir.
what's that like then when when you've learned so much from these other people and now you get to be in that position to teach it as well?
Well, to touch on what Gunnery Sergeant Stubbs said earlier, information is useless unless you share that with somebody else. So the things that we've learned the things that I've learned, my affiliation started with the reserve team back in 2008. I started out shooting high power. Um, so I took all of that knowledge that was downloaded to me, and I've been spreading that out to any Marine that will listen on how to be a better, more effective rifle shooter. Same thing with what I learned from the guys on the pistol team. We will sit around and have conversations at the schoolhouse about shooting. We will geek out about guns. And it's if you're new to shooting and you just walk in there, sit down and listen, you'll walk away with more questions than answers. So yeah, it's been a great opportunity to go up and instruct and teach Marines how to be more effective at their job.
I've got it interesting. When I first got associated with the shooting teams coming in as an AI just to kind of help them get things set up, I was the training and operations chief for a military police company located in Lexington, Kentucky. We all thought we shot pretty well, and our company was doing pretty well as far as our first class to shooters. So you have like three levels: your first, second, and third class. First being the best of your expert qualifications. We had around 15 expert shooters in 2013. After coming into the course, getting the information, understanding basically what the school taught, I came back to my company as a combat marksmanship coach and took over all those training cycles leading into our ranges, whether it was pistol or rifle. Well, we jumped all the way to 50% expert pistol and rifle shooters in 1 year based on the information I brought back. And I tracked those stats, and that was pretty significant to me. And it kind of showed me how important this really was to get as many of my Marines into that school as possible. And at this point, I've got 5 coaches there as I've transitioned into basically shooting teams as my reserve job. But the amount of information you get, the kind of shooter that makes you, the exposure and the time that you get behind a trigger, it makes an immediate and lasting impact at the company level.
That is absolutely amazing. Gil, so when you shoot a match, do you like have some sort of like debrief you do in your head to like, what am I going to give back to the community to make this even better, even more effective?
Our knowledge exchange on this team is amazing, and we're lucky in that we've got great cohesion. The group of guys that we have together, we get along really, really well, and it's developed into friendships on and off. We're all thick-skinned, so when somebody's doing something wrong, you'll hear about it right away, and it's always constructive.
Without remorse.
Without remorse, but we're all thick-skinned because we have to have that. We're Marines, we're hard-headed. And that information exchange immediately translates into what we're taking back to our companies for training. And the list is growing, and the school's evolving with what we're going to be teaching and how we're going to be, teaching the Marines that we come back to. But it's almost a running notebook. It's a running log. I know that we all keep notes. We've all got notebooks on our person whenever we go shoot. And when I leave, I've got the things I need to work on, and that translates into how I'm going to train my Marines leading into that yearly training schedule.
Wow, that's great that you're able to translate that. I guess I need to bring a notebook around with me. Maybe I'm missing all the great stuff I'm learning here.
It's amazing how fast you forget what you were weak on if you don't write that down.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I remind myself after every match the things I jacked up, and immediately I start dry firing almost immediately when I get home.
Now that's dedication. So
I try to remind people occasionally that when you write things down, it is good to keep things in the positive. So not necessarily saying this is what I did wrong, but saying this is what I need to work on in the future, or this is what I didn't feel comfortable with when I was shooting the match. And that's definitely something you need to work on, practice, and target specifically in the future.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. So we've talked about how the team started and sort of like what the drink from the fire hose that was received this year. Matt, you mentioned that you've got big plans down the road. Can you guys give me an idea of what, say, the next 5 to 10 years looks like? If you guys had your way, a magic wand, how would you make the team look in 5 to 10 years, and what would the impact be on the Marine Corps?
If I had a magic wand and I could go and do things in big Marine Corps, what I would do is there would be Marines in every climbing place that had our knowledge and our skill set to go out and teach other Marines, because our job is to ensure Marines survive next contact, get Marines off the X, get them home. That's the mission. Regardless of where you are, what you're doing, you come home. So, and the best way to do that when someone is shooting at you, is to shoot back at them and be more efficient and more effective than they are. So my magic wand would be take the knowledge that we're gaining here, disseminate that throughout the Marine Corps. And I think probably the most effective way to do that is to incorporate this type of training throughout the Marine Corps.
Yeah, the neat thing is Matt has a very unique opportunity in the Marine Corps. There's not many things that haven't been around for a few hundred years. And getting to build something from the ground up is unique for a Marine, because we have the opportunity to create legacy. And I think that's really what everybody wants, especially when you kind of get to the end of your career, is that you get a chance to have a lasting impact on what the Marine Corps does moving forward. And as far as what we've talked about, as far as the team, is we've got the pressure, but also the privilege of setting the foundation to make this last forever. And at least that's the vision, is that we've incorporated not only action shooting into the way that we train, but we've set this team up for success moving forward. I'm in the twilight of my career, so I've got a good 2 or 3 years left. And I'm not going to become a master winning 3-gun nation events or anything crazy, but what I can do is lay the groundwork so this becomes a lot easier to run for the Marines coming past us, some of the junior Marines that we have, and that it's established enough and it's got a good reputation for applying these skills, acting properly, to doing the best we can at matches, to where they get a chance to stick around for a while. And that's what I really think we want to have happen, is that this lives and it breathes, but we do our job in the front end to make sure that it runs on its own in the back end.
Man, that the idea of making a legacy like that and actually being in the trenches doing it, that's absolutely incredible opportunity that you guys have there.
Absolutely. Some of these shooting sports have been around for 100 years. We're a year into this. It's an opportunity I've not seen in the time I've been in, and we don't take it lightly by any means. It's absolutely serious when it comes to what we're trying to do. And I'm thankful every day that I'm part of this as it develops into what it's becoming.
Awesome. Well, I love the mission you guys are on, and the concept of the team, and genuinely enjoy the time we spend together on the range. Guys, I won't take up too much of your evening, because I know you need to get some sleep for training tomorrow, but I'd like to get a final thought from each of you for the audience out there, something that they can take away with it. And Mark, let's start with you.
You wanna steer me a little bit, Dave, as far as, I mean, you say a final thought. You're saying as far as the future of the team or the training.
Yeah, I leave it open I leave it open like that for a reason. But basically, like if you have like a message to share with the thousands of 3-gunners that are listening to it, or like some sort of a piece of advice or something like that, what would it be?
I guess I would just encourage everybody to keep going with their shooting. You know, the reality is that in a lot of ways, civilians look at the military and think, oh, those guys are really high speed. They're driving warfare. They're driving marksmanship. This is where it comes from. But the reality is that the military looks out at the civilian world, whether they know it or not, and they're generally following those trends. You know, the Marine Corps, in a lot of ways, our rifle shooting has been centered around what civilians did in about the year 1900. So that was, we essentially looked at the most prominent civilian competitions of the day, the most practical civilian competitions of the day, and we said, I think that will be useful to us. You know, we just got done with some small wars, and we realized maybe we didn't shoot quite as good as we wanted to, and we wanted to get better at that. So in the lead up to World War I, that's the kind of thing we were doing. And there is something to finding something that's really good and keep doing it because it's the right thing. But I think we need to add to that. You know, there's been some new sports that maybe have slightly different application. So we need to take everything we've learned, and then we need to add to that what we're doing, this advanced other techniques, and show them some different shooting positions, and you know, shooting under vehicles, shooting sideways, and just all these different crazy things that you get into when you might be in combat somewhere, going through a rubble of a city, And what are you going to have to do? You have to do whatever you can do to get hits on the enemy before they hit you. And so that might be involve just the most awkward things that you can imagine. And we want to help prepare people for that so that they're ready to do the best they can, and that they come home walking to their loved ones and they're not the guy going home in the body bag. And the civilians really have driven that. They've changed practical shooting. And, while a lot of people don't realize, Marine Corps Colonel Jeff Cooper, wasn't just the guy writing in the back of Guns and Ammo. He was a World War II Marine Corps veteran that helped start IPSC in the 1970s. He wanted something better, some better way of training and shooting. And here we are. So, a Marine with a bunch of civilians started down this road, and we're all just trying to catch up and hang on.
Wow, that's a weird thought to think it's come full circle like that, and now the Marine Corps is like, hey, what happened to this thing that Jeff started over here?
Right.
We just refer to him as Colonel Cooper.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Gil, for you then, how about a final thought for us?
So I'm going to focus on the newer shooters since I'm relatively a new shooter. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit over a year doing this, and I could have saved myself a lot of grief. But the thing that caused me the most grief and what I want to articulate, if there's new shooters that happen to be listening, or somebody's got a buddy that turns you on to your program, your podcast, they can start to get some info, I'll promise you it's not your gear.
Oh,
Take
man,
what you
that's
have,
a great one.
whatever shotgun you own. What now?
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, if you've got an 870 in your garage, you've got that AR that you built from the first time, and it's just a stock AR. You've got that regular pistol. Don't buy gear. Take what you've got. Start understanding the game. You'll figure out eventually what you need and what you don't need. But that gear is not the holdup. It's the shooter. If you get to a point where you're consistent on your times, you're feeling pretty comfortable, that's when you can start to explore, hey, maybe I need to invest in some things. Caused myself a lot of grief last year because I swore up and down it was a gear. And here I am a year and 2 months later realizing, nope, wasn't the gear. I just made myself poor. So if I could make a suggestion, just focus on the sport, focus on the game, focus on the plan. Because I guarantee with those stock systems running out there, the better they get at stage planning, the better times get anyway. And so take your time in the beginning of the sport. Just take what you have out there. Don't drop a ton of money. You'll eventually learn what you need as you become a better shooter. But what you have right now work just fine to get involved in the sport.
I love it. That's a great final thought, and something I dealt with myself. So that one hits home a little bit. Thank you.
Welcome.
Matt, how about for you, sir?
Well, I guess if a final thought, kind of sticking with my earlier mantra of I'm in this for the Marines, the individual Marine, not the Marine Corps, the big Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps will exist for another 200 years beyond my existence. I'm in this for the individual Marine. What can I teach them? What information can I pass to them? And I'll look at that and I go, so if there's a Marine listening or somebody who aspires to be a Marine, go out and learn your weapon systems. You get a lot of exposure in the Marine Corps to guns, machine guns, rifles, grenade launchers, all manner of different things. Go out and become intimately familiar with that weapon system so you can develop that firing solution when you don't have the opportunity to get a perfect center mass shot off. When you realize you've got to start sending rounds down range, you start perforating flesh. How fast can you garner a firing solution? So go out and train to that. Spend time with your guns. Dry fire. Spend a lot of time behind that rifle. Bring it up. Find awkward positions to get into when you're out to the range. Everybody likes to go to the range and shoot fast and shoot paper targets at 25 yards or 15 yards just because it looks cool and you can shoot really fast. Go out there and make it difficult. Shoot from your non-dominant hand. Go out there and practice shooting underneath a barricade. Go out there and train to be successful. It's kind of cliche, but right now our enemies are training to kill us. What are we doing? So I'd say, well, we're training to make sure that they die for their country, or they die for their cause. So that would be my final thought.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a lot of interesting information that you guys have. The complexity of your program as it relates to the Marine Corps is something that I think I better understand now, but might take me a little bit longer, maybe a few more beers. But I totally appreciate you guys taking the time to share your story with the audience. And it's cool to see what you guys are doing and how 3-Gun is actually impacting our warfighters and everything. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for what you do. And thanks for being on the 3-Gun Show.
Thank you, Dave.
Have a good night, Dave.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with David, Matt, Gil, and Mark of the USMC Reserve Action Shooting Team. You know, when I was younger, I figured the military had like the best gear, the best training, the best tactics. But, because we've been at war for the last 16 years, I've met so many people that are in or were in the military that say the stuff that we do in 3-Gun is some high-level proficiency. And you heard the guys talk about it. We're a passionate lot, and we train hard for that passion. So it is amazing that this little practical shooting seed that Colonel Cooper planted so long ago is now providing a testing ground for gear and tactics that make our nation's warriors more effective. Unbelievable how the how the world works. All comes full circle. So check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 108 for podcast support links and for show notes, including links to the Reserve Action Shooting Team's social media accounts. Like them on Facebook and follow them on Instagram. While you're there, get your copy of the 3-Gun Show match checklist at 3gunshow.com/checklist. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.